dreams die. Rely on yourself in no way. Believe.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm not sick, just a weird morning today. Um, tea. Um, hopefully, everyone's doing okay. We had quite an interesting night last night on the mix, and I'll give you a short little story about some things here. So, they the topic for today came up during the show yesterday, if you guys remember, and I didn't make it up until last night before the mix. And during the mix, the topic itself, the title, popped out of someone's mouth. It was hilarious. And then um, they proceeded to exemplify everything. Exactly, Daniel. Exactly. So we're going to be talking some clarification things today, and I had told you before we had have a conversation about what sin is in um, a broad sense, and I think today we need to kind of narrow it up a little bit. Now, in the beginning of time, Adam and Eve were the first to fall, and sin entered the world. In essence, and reality, sin is disobedience to God's law. That's that's all it is. It's disobedience to God's law. Known or unknown to you, it's disobedience to the law. Case in point, if I'm new to an area in town and I'm driving along and I don't see the speed limits posted and I'm going along willy nilly, and what's up, Chris? And the cops pull me over and tell me that I was speeding. And I tell him, well, I didn't know what the speed limit was. Did you know that me not knowing what the speed limit was does not negate the fact that I broke the law? Did you know that? Did you know that if the speed limit is set at 25 and I am going 35, but I didn't know 25 was the speed limit, I am still guilty of breaking the speed limit, right? So ignorance on my part does not negate me of the penalty of law breaking. So when the cop decides, yeah, you didn't know, but that's the law, here's a ticket, it's within his purview to do so. Or if the cop says, well, seeing as how you didn't know, I will extend you a courtesy and give you a warning. He has within his purview to do so as well. All of that is up to the one enforcing the law. Ignorance has nothing to do with it. A lot of us go through life thinking that if I don't willfully sin, I'm not talking about believers, I should not be held to account by God because I didn't know. How would I know? I didn't know. How is God going to blame me for something I didn't know was His law? You not knowing does not negate His law. I'm sorry to break this to you. All of this goes right back to the fact that we do not honor God for the person, position, and authority that He is. You see, we want to only respect Him when we know, and even then, we rarely respect Him. Then we want to put caveats on His rules because we feel that if He made an exception once, He has to make the exception all the time. I don't need to ask Him to make the exception. I just have to make the exception myself because He did once. I think you know where I'm going with this, real quick. Well, if God used Deborah and God used this female and God used that person, God did. And just because God decided to give leeway to something does not make it normal. Just because He allowed certain things to take place for a time does not make it acceptable. Nor does it give anyone else the right to just do it because it was allowed. We do not want to take anything to Him because we like the allowances and want to make them the rule. We want to make them the rule. So when you hear people say, I've been called to do blah, 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 and then you look and you see blatantly it's not something that they can be called to, and then they point out something to you that says, well, here, 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 and here, there was an exception. And then they make it the rule. Okay? Excuse me. Sneezing time. So with angry and anger, anger. Let's talk about what anger is. First off, what exactly is anger? We need to identify some things, okay? Now, when someone says that you're angry at them, that comes with a wide range of reactions. And what someone perceives as anger may not be anger. In fact, I would dare say that majority of the time, what people think is anger is not anger. Sometimes you can give a very stern response and someone thinks you're angry. But then there is a definite source that anger resides in. And the instant that you know that you're angry, they want to say this verse of being angry and sinning not. So, what exactly does the link between being angry and not sinning mean? We like to put actions attached to sin. This is a sin, that is a sin, that's a sin, that's a sin, that's a sin. They may be forms that derive from a location. They may be forms that come from a point of disobedience. So when you say you can be angry and sin not, anger ain't a sin. Okay. Can anger lead to sin? Disobedience, yes. So when it says this verse, it has zero to do with many of the things that people say. If you're angry, don't do this, 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 this. The verse has nothing to do with these things, by the way. So we're going to get the verse out the way first. When you're angry, don't do this, 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 because those would be sins if you're angry. The fact that the verse breaks it down so succinctly right in front of people and they don't want to read it is crazy to me. It says, be angry and do not sin, meaning don't let the sun go down on your wrath nor give place to the devil. Do you see where the sin comes in? Do you see where the sin comes in? It's holding on to that anger past the point of release. You don't address it. You don't ask for reconciliation. You harbor it. Therein lies the sin of anger. The sin of anger. Do not hand me this tripe about making sure that when you're angry, you don't say certain things. And that is the verse you quote to me. It specifically says, don't let your anger be taken to past sundown. Don't let it go past that point. In fact, don't let it fester, is what it's trying to tell you. Now, the verse goes on, and it says, no corrupt word should proceed from your mouth. You know what they say that? What the corrupt words are? Names. Corrupt words are names now. It's ironic, but not really. It's a God thing. That the same people that will tell you that when you're angry and you call people names, that's corrupt. But they will say things like wishing the most vile things upon you, and that's not corrupt. They will wish your demise, but that's not corrupt. Technically, and most importantly, unequivocally, that is corrupt speech, not name calling. You know how I know it's not name calling? O foolish Galatians, who hath bewitched you that you not obey the truth? Foolish is and foolish does. You can call out foolishness for what it is. Calling someone stupid, that's not corrupt. And if I had considered someone my brother, I wouldn't call them fool. See, but you have to be considered brother. Heck, you have to be a brother. And I don't mean in the male female sense. You have to be walking the same path. But since you're not, fool is the perfect word. We love to take all these platitudes that we've heard from pulpits all through our life, and that people say this and people say, take for instance this one, okay? I keep hearing this all the time from people. You tell me if you've heard this before. Sin is missing the mark. We're going to get into some crazier waters right now. Sin is missing the mark. You've heard that one before? It's everywhere. Sin is missing the mark. Okay. Here's my question to those of you that think that nonsense, and it is indeed nonsense. You'll hear why in a minute. Can you, all by yourself, hit the mark? Answer me that. Can you hit the mark? So if you're trying to tell me that you avoiding sin means hitting the mark, or that everyone has missed the mark, why are you so bent on trying to think you can even remotely hit the mark? You are perpetually in sin if your goal is to hit the mark. Period. Ain't nobody can hit that mark. That mark is perfection. The mark is perfection. But I can see why you say that, and I can see why you can then say that you're a born again sinner. Because in your minds of most people, believers included, they have to do in order to feel like what Jesus did was valid. And I really want you to eat on that for a minute. That you think you have to do in order to validate the sacrifice on the cross. Always. If you can't hit the mark and you consider sin missing the mark, how do you reconcile this? Then in your mind, there is no escape for you. Because if every day you miss the mark, it must mean that you're trying to hit it. If every day you miss the mark, it must mean that every day you are trying to hit it. And every day you will fail, which tells me that you believe that in some crazy world, there might come a day where you might hit the mark. Or maybe there are multiple marks and you hit it in some areas and you don't hit it in some areas. But if the mark, as you say, is righteousness, you will never hit the mark on your own. You walking by yourself, you're not going to hit that mark. The whole reason Jesus came was because we could never hit the mark. The whole reason he came was because of disobedience, to show obedience. He was obedient his whole life. He was obedient his whole life, sinless. He was obedient his whole life. The very first thing mankind did to fall away was disobedience. Everything else springs from that. Every other form or result of disobedience is what we consider sin. Everything past disobedience. Disobedience will result in fornication. Disobedience will result in murder. Disobedience brings about everything else, which is why we are all in it, because it's disobedience from the smallest to the greatest. It's disobedience. And not a one of us enters this world obedient. Not one. But here's what we don't want. We don't want true committing to Christ. We don't. Here's why we don't. We love to use the word but. We love to say, but I, it's just, but I, you know who else said that? Did he really? But did he really say that? Sounds familiar. Christ became our righteousness, right? And the only way for you to put on that righteousness is to put off self. I've said this multiple times on this channel that dead people can't do a whole lot. Dead people can't do a whole lot. He's asking me to die so that he may live in me. Yet still somehow I find a way to be a zombie. And not only find a way to be a zombie, I find caveats to keep it going. That's just how I am. This is just my personality. I've been doing this for so long. We don't really want his life. We want our life with a tinge of his. Or at least we want to have our life still and just kind of put him on as a cloak. We want him as a cloak. We want the weight, just kind of like, yeah. And then we still here. I'm still got my stuff. I'm still working through all that. I'm still working, giving that up. That part, I'm still trying to figure that one through. He's still working on me to get. You heard that one? He's still working on me to get that gone. So here's the question: is what you possess in a life that you should have given up more important than him? is what you have going on more important than him? Say you have a problem with self medicating with sex, okay? And your body has now become in tune with the euphoria that comes with it. And so now every time you need some appeasement or stress relief, that's what you resort to. See, that was your whole life. And you come to a crossroads and you say, I'm going to follow God. And your first test shows up. Your first test shows up. Is that the time to be reasoning through whether or not you give in, or should that have happened when you followed? So let me ask you this too. Is his life only made complete in phases, or is it done? Is it done? It's a legit question, I think, for me. For me, not for you. I'm just saying for me, it's a legit question. If the criteria is that you deny yourself, you die, then follow, should that be something you are contemplating now? Or should you have been contemplating and gotten rid of that then? Or did you follow some sort of a statement that told you, as you are is just fine, and he'll work things out over time? He understands that you will continue sinning because that's what you've always done. And as you do, you return and repent. But don't worry, that will keep happening. And the goal is for it to not happen anymore or not so often. Have you been given the leeway to think that your walk is a constant repetition of breaking your body by falling? Or do you remind yourself of this very truth, taking thoughts captive, where the instant the thought comes, you say, that is not of you, that is of the old me, and I don't have to follow it. I don't even have to even remotely give into that. Why? Because I have a new life. You know what we don't want to do is actually take the thoughts captive. Now, the thoughts are going to keep coming because the devil don't quit. Let's just be honest, the devil ain't going to quit just because you say, I'm going to follow God. He's going to be like, oh, well, that's one more God. I guess I can't do nothing. He's going to up the ante. Of course, he's going to come and up the attacks. Duh. No, duh. Come on now. But we read all these things in the book, and you have all these platitudes out there. None of us follow them, really. Greater is the one who is inside of me than he who is living in the world. If you think it, well, if he's greater, how is it that you only follow the greatness after you've done your own thing? And you come whimpering back with your tail between your legs after you've done what you've done. Why is his greatness not great enough to stop you from it? Taking a thought captive instantly tells you that the thoughts are going to come. What you do with that thought is either Christ or not. We've talked about this before. The mind set on Christ. Set. Case in point. Cup. Huh? See? I set my cup in my hand. It is no longer on the table. The table no longer has the effect on the cup. We have really simple, remedial answers to these things. The mouse is now on my hand. The mindset. This is on my hand, right? The table cannot affect it unless I take it and place it on the table. I have to purposefully take it off of my hand to put it on the table. Some people say, well, I fell. The mouse fell. If my hand, it being Christ, is unshakable, does not falter, does not fail, how are you falling from that? Just tell me how. I want to know how. Just tell me how. How? No, you've taken yourself off of that, which tells me you never gave up you. It also tells me you never really got your mind set. You did this. You see where my other hand is? Okay. This is my mind. This is me. This is Christ. This is what I did. Mm-hmm. Mm. We don't want to do cruise control. Set it and forget it. When you have a thought about it, about straying, about your old life, because guarantee you the devil is going to make sure you remember. He likes to make you remember. Because when you remember, you go back. Majority of us, this is what happens. The thought shows up. And when the thought shows up, we pay attention to the thought just a little. But that thought is linked to hundreds upon millions of old habits throughout your flesh. The instant you take attention and place it on that thought, and I don't mean to take it captive, I mean to give it time, you have now activated all kinds of history in your mind and in your body. And the first thing to give in will be your will. When you have the life of Christ, however, and the thought comes, you realize to yourself, I have a new life. that has nothing to do with me anymore. I don't even have to give that a second glance. It can keep bugging me all at once. I don't have to give it a second glance. What I can do then is now practice my new muscle. The new muscle is thank you that I don't have to give in to this. Thank you that this life I live now is not that life. And the more you remind yourself and the more you thank Him for it, the less attention you give to the thought. The thing is, we apply this stuff to all kinds of humanistic things: working out, weight loss, getting the promotion, working hours, paying bills. We apply the push through thought to everything but Christianity. You don't find that weird? We will work 16 hours a day, pushed through tiredness because we want the payout. We will go to the gym, sweat till we pass out because we want to lose weight. Marines will put their bodies through hell to attain a certain goal. We will grind, we will claw for an end result we want. But we won't take a thought captive that could cost us eternity. We won't take a single thought captive that could cost us eternity. So, have I strayed from the topic of anger and sin? Not, no. Because we had to break down sin. Anger is fine, it's expected. The results of it, of disobeying the rule of anger, is where your trouble starts. You don't take it. And this says the same thing. You don't take it to bed with you. You don't let it go down. It becomes something, a whole nother situation when you do that. Mind you, this particular statement is all in relation to your brother. I want people to be clear about this. This is in relation to your brother. This is not about mankind. This is not about your next door neighbor. This is about your brother, fellow believers. Please be sure that that is what this is talking about. It comes right after talking about the new man and putting on the new man and the renewed mind. It comes right after that and says, therefore. So it's not talking about Joe Schmo across the street who is a practicing homosexual and probably a pedophile. It is not talking about him. Let's get this particular point straight. This is not our relationship with the world. Okay? So don't have me this nonsense about going to bed mad or going out getting angry at some sinful person and being, oh, you can't. No, trust me, I can. I don't have to take anything to them because they don't have anything to do with my salvation at all. I'm called to a certain relationship to my fellow brothers. To my brothers. There there is something to be said about being called apart and set apart and being removed from. We tell them about the kingdom. We tell them about the cross. They have to make a decision. There'd be no way you can reconcile the dusting off of feet with this line if it were about everybody. You can't. You have entered a new life, and not everyone is my brother. In fact, let's read 17 through 24. This is Ephesians 4, by the way. Therefore, I say, and testify in the Lord that you should no longer walk as the rest of the Gentiles walk, in the futility of their mind, having their understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them, because of the blindness in their heart, who, being past feeling, have given themselves over to lewdness, to the work of uncleanness with greediness. But you have not so learned Christ. Indeed, you have heard him and have been taught by him, as the truth is in Jesus, that you have put off, concerning your former conduct, the old man which grows corrupt according to the deceitful lusts, and renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that you put on the new man which was created according to God in true righteousness and holiness. Therefore, putting away lying, because you are a new man. Speak truth to one another with your neighbor. Your neighbor being the same people that have done what you've done. This is not about you and your interaction with the world. This is about you and your interaction with the new man and the new man in others. The new man can recognize new man. If you ain't got the new man, I don't have to. I don't. In fact, I should not be trying to find common ground with you. There is zero common ground I should be finding on your ground. You have no ground that I can find common. Not one. I'm dead. I put on a brand new life. I have nothing in common with them. I have zero in common. But we want to. We want to be in common with the world. We love to pull the analogy, well, I was just like you, you know. I understand. What fellowship does light have with darkness? Same book everybody seems to want to read, but nobody want to believe. If I get angry at darkness, it's completely fine. What fellowship do I have? Why am I trying to be friends with them? Why is so here's the thing. If I tell them the truth about where they're going, I have to somehow say it nicely. Why? Show me where it says that. Show me where it says that I should not tell them the reality of their life choices. Telling them they're going to hell if they don't follow is not me judging. That's telling you a fact. Telling you that your life that you're living now will lead you straight to the gates of hell is not judging. That's a fact. I I I don't see how that's mean. Calling sin sin is now mean. Oh, you have to say it nicely though. You have to say it nice. Why? Is time not urgent? Should I dumb down their location for them? Should I make them feel as though they have all kinds of time? Should I make them feel like their sin is not that big a deal? Should I not make them aware that there's a chasm between them and God? And no amount of good deeds is going to reconcile it? I shouldn't make that known to them? Because feelings? Y'all are crazy. Then we got to make sure we find things to make them feel welcome. We need to do the things that they're familiar with in order for them to feel why? Why are we giving them, the lost ones, all of the handlebars? This is not me preaching hate, but the kingdom is dictated by the king, not by the peasants. You don't placate to the peasant, especially when the king is offering you a place at his table. The king doesn't go and buy raggedy clothes to put on to fit in with the peasant. In fact, he gives the peasant radiant clothing. The peasant has to clean up to put on this radiant clothing. They don't walk in with their soiled shoes. They're given brand new shoes. But we people, we want to create the church in man's image and not man in God's. We want God to come and take his kingship, put it aside, and come sit in our squalor with us and consider ourselves saved. Because the king is here now. And no, I'm not talking about actual poverty. And I'm not talking about the fact that you may not have clothes. And I'm not talking about anything. We're talking about spiritual issues here. Spiritual squalor, spiritual depravity. We don't want that. We somehow think we have to placate to everybody else. We got to placate to them. We got to bring them in at their speed, not God's, theirs. We'll give them as much leeway. We actually give them way more grace than God Himself. At least that's what you think you're giving them is grace. The word you're actually doing is excuses, and you're giving them more rope to hang themselves. Your role is to live in peace with your brothers. And it's easy to do when your brothers, true brothers, are your brothers. Because the Spirit is what unites you, not your commonalities, not your personality, not your likes and your dislike. The Spirit bonds you. And where the Spirit is, there is peace. How is this difficult? How is that difficult? I don't need to create something that's already done. I don't need to force anything that's already smooth. I don't. But we like to because we want to hold on to what we want to hold on to. We like our way better. The sooner people could admit that you like your way better, just say it. His way is too easy. When he told you that his yoke is easy and his burden is light, he wasn't lying. He released you from the burden of all the platitudes that you had to hold up to, all of the excuses you had, all of the outlets you used to use. He released you of all of that. And all he asked you to do was follow. That's light. I, Look, life is not, life itself, as we have it here, not easy. It's not. If you pay attention to it in the flesh, it's definitely not easy. Worry, stress, bills, kids, school, work, government, censorship, you name it. If you focus on it enough, you will have a hard life. However, you do not live there. I told you yesterday that trusting Him is a all or nothing deal. And sometimes you can find yourself doing a good thing and it not be a God thing. And He will still turn and remind you, that's you're doing my job again, or trying to. You're trying to do my job again. You're going to fail, but you're trying. Either you trust me or you don't. You trust me to do what I got to do or you don't. And I don't mean trust Him to give you what you want. I don't mean trust Him to make sure everything is nice. I don't mean trust Him to make sure everything is smooth. I just mean trust Him for who He is. For crying out loud, some of the apostles were boiled in oil and sawn and quartered because of trust. They didn't get the health and the wealth. They were exiled, imprisoned. Yet somehow we feel we should be getting all these perks. God's going to bless you. Your blessing is on the way. Don't you worry about it. When the Lord moves in your life, He going to move like He never moved before. Then you get dropped in a vat of oil. Why God ain't moving? What are you doing? What did I do wrong? Why God ain't doing? Oh, Lordy, Lordy, Lordy. Your family turned their back on you. Lord, why they turning their back on me, Lord? Why? You lose your job. The Lord ain't with me no more. Is that your gauging of the Lord being with you? Prosperity? Perks? Benefits? He is the benefit. He's the perk. We somehow get bogged down with life that we forget the afterlife is where everything ends. At the end of this is where things actually start to matter. You'd much rather have your job and all the perks now and end up in hell still? That's what you prefer? Stay on the narrow path. The Lord gonna bless you tomorrow. He's coming to bless you tomorrow. Your blessing is on the way. Send me some money, and then the blessing gonna be there. You just pray to the Lord to get your blessing. I said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. The greatest blessing you will ever receive is the removal of your name from the roster of hell. The greatest blessing you will ever receive is the removal of your name from the roster of hell. If my God does nothing else on earth in my life, I end up destitute, homeless, broke, all of that. But my name is not on the roster of hell, I'm rich. I am golden, 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 good, good, good. I don't need another thing to go right. God gave me a brand new life in which my name was blotted out of hell's handbook. And that is all. That's all. If he's not enough, I don't know what is. I don't need to have a ability to speak in tongues. I don't need it to prove anything. I don't need to be a brilliant scholar of the book. I don't need to have any of that either. I don't. I'm grateful that the God of this universe saw me speeding, took my car to the side, told me what the penalty was, and right there on the spot ripped up the ticket. And not only that, he said, you know what? I'm going to escort you. And my lights are going to be going. So anyone that sees you, they'll know that I am escorting you. If y'all don't want that, don't want it. That's why I don't try and force nobody to believe it. Don't believe it. That's entirely up to you. I can't walk your walk anyway. But I'm definitely not going to listen to you trying to tell me about God. That ain't going to happen. You're not going to put your platitudes and your ridiculousness and what you're wanting things to be true. You're not going to put that on me. Your silly interpretation of Bible. Keep it to yourself. Interpret how you want. Live how you want to live. Do what you want to do. Do what you want to do. And this is the other thing too. This whole as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord thing. Okay? I want to read this real quick. Okay? Joshua went on a diatribe about all these people. He went off. And then he told them, you know what? Y'all do what you want. If you want to do that, go do that. I don't care. For me, I'm going to do this. He went off on them. He went off on these people. Then he said, now fear the Lord and serve him in sincerity and truth, and put away the gods of your fathers, served on the other side of the flood and in Egypt, and served the Lord. And serve the Lord. But if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose this day who you're going to serve. This man did not just say, as for me and my home, we will serve. He did not do this. Do not let anybody lie to you that Joshua was just kind of calmly saying, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. This man went in on them, telling them, y'all had that, this, that. God did this for you, and you still went and did this nonsense over here. You had this, you still went and did that crap over there. But if you look, if serving the Lord seems evil to you, go ahead and do that. Go ahead, don't serve the Lord. But for me, I'm going to do it. And that's not even partial. That's barely paraphrasing him. That is barely paraphrasing. Joshua didn't go and say, well, you know, I understand, man. I understand that you guys have been through a lot, you know, and it's kind of hard to give up. I get it. And maybe you don't want to, but man, you know, okay. So what I'm going to do, right? Look, I understand that y'all might not want to do this, but for me, I'm going to do it. He never did that. Joshua was brutal with these people. He was brutal. So the next time somebody tells you that you need to be nice, scoff at them. You laugh. I say, okay, well, you be nice in hell. Have fun with that. Bye. If you don't want it, don't look. I don't need to persuade. I don't need to convince. I don't need to do none of that. Either you want, and I keep saying it to atheists too, live like an atheist, live like God don't exist. If you really believe that, live like he don't exist. If y'all out there listening to this don't want God, don't want him. But don't expect because you don't want him and you pissed off at me having him that I'm going to somehow just change my mind and be nice to lose that thought somewhere in the weeds, because it ain't happening here. Lose that thought somewhere out in the weeds. Don't tell me I have to be nice to the LGBTQ community. Don't give me that crap, because that ain't going to happen either. Don't tell me I need to approach their sin in love. Don't give me that crap neither, because that's not scriptural either. They'll bring out this about cast the first stone. One, you ain't Jesus. Okay, let's put that into perspective here. Everybody would have thrown a stone but Jesus. He knew exactly what he was saying. So don't give me that crap. That was Jesus. This man went on to tell her everything. Everything. You had 5. The one you were with, you ain't that's not even your husband. What are you doing? He did not endorse anything she was doing. He didn't endorse it. He didn't okay it. He called it out to her face. The only person she had to make reconciliation with was God. But she had to be presented with where she was. And he did that. We don't even want to do that. We don't even want to do that. We're quick to say, you can't judge me because you can't throw a stone either. The church is so backward these days, it's crazy. And you say this life's moments. This idea of teaching the truth in love. This comes back, and I'll probably tackle that to another topic. Love is a person, and that person is God. He is love, right? God is love. That's what it says. He is love. So I should be teaching the truth in God. I can't teach the truth outside of Him. It has nothing to do with me doing it nicely and princesses and ponies and fairy tales. Teaching the truth while I reside in God is how I should be doing it. This has nothing to do with being soft. Get Stop with this prosperity BS. It's going around way too it's deep. It is deep because we don't want it. We don't want it. I'm going to address this comment real quick before I end this. And I have one question to ask as a clarification before I fully respond. If someone is coming to you wanting to live right in God, I'm going to let you figure out that first portion there where you might have gone wrong in the statement, but and who is here to learn better so they may better hear. Could we not soften our tongue when responding and explaining the trespass? So my question is, are you speaking about a believer or a sinner? I want that clarification before I move on any further. Are you speaking about a believer or a sinner? Just let me know. That'd be great. And it better not be either, because there is a massive difference of approach between the two. So please tell me, believer, they need to be speaking to God. There is a reason why he left the Holy Spirit, which is why I constantly tell people to go where? You got something that's really deeply worrying you, stress. Where do I send you? To me, to a pastor, where do I send you? Where should you be going? First off, where? Look, I may have some things I may say that's from him. I am a vessel, only a vessel. I may have some translation things that might help, but I am not the end all, be all captain. He is, and that's where you direct him. Anytime you have issues, go straight there. If you're a believer and you're not talking to him at all, then there's something wrong. If, let me go back to your question now. If they're coming to me wanting to live right in God, they've already screwed up. If they're coming to me wanting to live right in God and learn better, they have a problem right off the top. They should be going to God and let Him direct them. There is a process that we have completely ignored in Christianity. And you saw Marcus Rogers do this nonsense and brag about it. If it wasn't for TD Jakes, I would have never. Do you want to know why I'm partially really glad that my subscribership is low? You want to know why I'm glad about that? I am glad because what it's showing is that more people would much rather go to him than to me. That's what I'm going to take from it. That there are plenty of people that would go to him than me. Obviously, I know there are some people that will go to somebody else because they're not directing them to God. So I get that. But I don't measure what he's doing through me by numbers. If you come to this channel and watch, and the first place you go is to God, if you hear me and you think false teacher, and the first place you go to him is to ask, perfect, exquisite. That's exactly what I want. I don't need to soften my tongue for anybody. Believers need the tongue lashing more than anybody else, especially today. Especially today. But if you are a believer and you're not speaking to the author, you got problems. You got major problems. Don't care. Like, I honestly don't care. Like, you have no idea how much care is not left in that bucket. I'll read your statement. I know how children have been programmed and weakened now, and they shut down when yelled at. Not my problem. But may hear you better with softer approach rather than triggering anger, resentment, and tears. I have 5 kids. 5. 1 8-year-old. Very sensitive little kid. Christoph is really sensitive. I mean, really sensitive. He's extremely on the empath scale. If you want to go to psychology, he's an empath. He can't see fighting in shows, and that's just not him. His whole being is soft. However, if I hear him talking a certain way to his mom, I don't care if he's an empath. I've already told him I will not tolerate certain things from him when speaking to his mom or speaking to his brother. And I shut it down in my tone, my authoritative tone. You know what hasn't changed in Christoph? He has not stopped being an empath. You know what he's learned? boundaries. So, no, I don't need to soften Jack for nobody. If they got a problem with how I deliver, you know who they can take it up with? Want to take a guess who they can take it up with? Take a guess. Take a guess who they can take up their discrepancies and their issues and their problems with me with. Who can they take that up with? There's a certain person that they can run to and talk to about how I address them. Who is that guy? Oh, that's right. God. Maybe my rage, my inability to talk calmly to them will run them off to God. You look, you can't. The, the approach is pretty simple. We want to do something. You can't do anything about their heart. No amount of words, no amount of books, nothing you can do can change their heart. You have to direct them to speak to one person and one person only. It is really that simple. He's not asking you or me to do anything more. Direct that student one place. And once you've done that, move on. I'm dead serious. This is not even trying to be a butt about it. Your job is to point them to Christ. That's it. He does the rest. He does the rest. If that means you sit with them and you pray that they go to him so they know how it looks, fine. Do that. And then send them away and tell them, go talk to God. He's the only one that can fix anything. He's the only one that can solve anything. He's the only one that can rectify wrongs. That's it. Just him. Not psychologists, not man. Him. We have forgotten the hierarchy. We've forgotten the process. We have forgotten it. And it's time we get back to it. It is why I tell you to take it to the author. I don't want nobody saying, I have a church. My church and my church. And when God gave me my ministry, I am never going to be the one saying that. It is not my ministry. And if ever there is a gathering of people to hear me speak, it will never be my church. Ever. Nor is it my vision. It's all his. If y'all don't want that, I can't help you. If you don't want to get funneled to the gate to talk to him yourself, then you're not going to have to listen to me. Don't listen to me. Look, God's the only way to fix anything in the world. He is. And by his hand, he'll direct people to do stuff. By his hand. You cannot fix people. God can. And I'm not just mean. That's not me. But I'm direct. I am direct. I'm not mean. But I'm definitely not going to be the one you come to when you need to be going to him. Go to him first. Him, 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 him. Him alone, him alone, him alone. If he sends you somewhere else, he can send you somewhere else. Here am I, send me. Here am I, send me. Not there I am, use me. Here I am, send me. You see where they went to first before they got sent? It's not, oh, I'm over there already. You might as well use me. Already have this skill. Might as well use that. Okay, here I am. Send me. Get to him first. He'll deploy. Get to him. He'll deploy. I think tomorrow's topic should be about love. What is love? Yeah. Okay. We'll do that tomorrow. Love. Um, Savage Patriots are on today at 6:30 Eastern. We will be discussing that Hunter Biden indictment kind of thingy majiggered plea deal that his daddy got him. Um, so we'll talk about that at 6:30. We're hoping to have a too strong episode today, but we have to find a good topic. Um, so just know that. And I will say this one thing. Um, for me, and that situation last night, do not feel an ounce of sympathy. Not even remotely. You know why? You know what you never saw happen? Listen carefully. Please listen carefully. I want you to understand what never took place. This is why I know that individual is way off into the weeds when it comes to God. Listen carefully. She didn't have on headphones, which means it was loud enough. She said she's married. 4 men are on her case. And not once did the protector, the defender, and the leader show up to her defense. Why? Because that's not his role in her house. She's the butch in that house. She is no minister. She's a toxic animal in her house. And her daughter proved it by the other female in the home coming to defend, not the man. Two toxic, inappropriate females. No man came to their defense. Let that sink in for a minute. So, no, I don't care that she cried. I don't care that her feelings got wounded. I don't care that her pride got smashed. Don't care at all. I don't care. She needed that because obviously her husband ain't doing it. Obviously, her husband wears some Richard Simmons shorts. That much is obvious. Trust me, I'm an empath too, but I can apply it where it's necessary. Hers wasn't necessary. There is a definite dark spirit on that lady, and she needs to release it. Period. She and Richard Simmons need to get checked. In any case, it's not even a think, Arlene. It's not even a think. Like I said, I'll tackle that, but I'll tell you my viewpoint about it. And even in my viewpoint, people might think it's off, but I'll tell you my viewpoint about it on Friday. We'll talk about that Friday. Using the scripture that they like to use anyway. So, in any case, we will see you guys on. Thank you, Dimitri. On in Savage Patriots later today, and the mix tonight. Yeah. Emails. I haven't gotten a whole lot of emails. If you guys do have topics, feel free to send them here. If you guys have anything you want to send via the post, it's there. Oh, I have the names now. Haha. I remembered that I put it in a notepad because old brain and all. Come on, notepad. Today, please. That's the one thing I hate about my phone. It is lethargic. You do anything that has to do with multiple processes, it doesn't like it. Okay, Charlene Torres and Jennifer Ravila, or it might be Ravia. Thank you for the gifts, for the book. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Those were great. So I think that's how I'm going to do it now. Anytime someone sends me something, I give a shout out. Holly, thank you for the letter. Really appreciated. And Donna, thank you. You guys are really, really, really appreciated. Thank you for all the stuff you sent. Okay. Thank you. Actually, the first person to deliver that message was the angel. The first person to deliver the message was the angel. Get that right. Okay. All right. Good. Technically, Jesus had already said that he was going to be risen. So he was the first. So if they didn't believe it, that was on them. He told them that was going to happen. So I'm just saying. Anyway, y'all have a good rest of the day. We'll catch you guys up on Savage Patriots today. And don't forget that next Saturday we'll be doing our next Rumble event. Really appreciate everything you guys do, your help, your persistence in spreading the channel. And again, this is not about numbers. That's not what I mean. But we do need to get people back on track. We have to get people back on track. We have to get them back on track. We got to remember the order. And if for nothing else, share it for that purpose. Get the order back. Love you guys. Mean it. Have a grand rest of the day. Wisdom calls to you from the streets. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die,